All right, welcome back, traders. Let's take a look at the close here. We're a couple minutes shy of the close. To me, it looks like we got a little bit of a swing failure up here this week. We got this long wick here on Bitcoin coming in here. So to me, it looks like, it does look like a swing fail. We are, within the bounds of this range right here. I would say once we start taking out this weekly low, this range low at 114, we can talk about, 109 being tested. But I'm really looking at, if we do break that, I am looking at this 104 region on Bitcoin. We can talk about that later on if we really start to see selling pressure kind of picking up here on Bitcoin. But if we look kind of at our weekly momentum, you can kind of see we have a bit of weekly bearish divergence going on up here. On the HA candles, well, there you go. We just crossed now. We just printed our weekly, what looks to be a weekly sell signal. All right, so that could transpire into a couple weeks of downside here for Bitcoin. So that could set us up for, I'm looking at this 109 region really, around this region here in the next coming weeks. Maybe this 107 region, this support here. So just being open here about it with you guys, this is what it looks like we might do. Okay. But right now we're in the middle of this range, so not really, I wouldn't be looking to like short this right now. If you're really looking to snipe a short, it was, closer to the top of the range or even around this 120 region. But yeah, we've got some room to come down is what I'm trying to say. 113s, 114s in this region, if we start to see follow through on this move down. So what could end up happening is actually we just range for a bit. All right. With Bitcoin, unless like equities markets really start rolling over. And what we're going to also look at is we're going to look at global liquidity, because that is the main driver for Bitcoin and really all markets. So the S&P here is up a very, very small percentage, 0.13%. And it looks like, maybe we're retesting this region here. It also kind of looks like a bit extended here on the 4-hour time frame here, but it looks like maybe your stochastics are resetting here on the 4-hour. Your 3-day time frame is also, coming close to a confirmation of a sell on your 3-day momentum. Your weekly momentum is still up here. No real concern just yet on the weekly. The high time frame is what we should really looking at, though. The high time frame actually looks pretty good for the S&P. So what this could transpire into is some sort of retest or a little bit of a pullback and then consolidation, and then we get this move into the 6,600 region, basically into these Fibonacci levels later on, maybe going into end of Q3 into Q4 here. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for the S&P. NASDAQ is probably similar. Let's see. It's a very similar chart. We are coming in contact with what looks to be a long-term trend line here that could act as resistance right now until we actually break it. And so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 is our 5th monthly green candle on the S&P. All right. So I would say September is probably not going to be a solid month for the equities markets, but you never really know, right? So that's kind of what I'm looking at here. So we could, on the 4-hour here, we're seeing, a bit of a hold here at the bottom of this local range. We could test up to 24,000 here on the NASDAQ, couple hundred points up there. We could continue higher. We could continue higher, probably up into this trend line. We could actually end up breaking the trend line going into the end of the month here as possible. What I also want to look at is, kind of rotation. So what happens towards the end of market cycles is you get rotations, right, into higher risk assets. Like, so if we look at the Russell, you can see that the Russell has a lot of room until its all-time high here. So yeah, I mean, risk to reward wise, rotating from big caps into smaller caps, there's more room for growth, right? And so that's what I'm looking at. And this also is confluent with like an alt season in the crypto land. Okay. And we're going to get to that here in a second. But this is kind of what I'm looking at in general. Okay. We are butting up against a monthly resistance. This is a clear level here where we really need to pierce through for the Russell to catalyze this next move for the small caps, right? And so we're kind of waiting to see that happen. And yeah, the monthly time frame looks great. You're just crossing up here on the monthly MACD, monthly buy signal on your stochastics. It all looks very, very good on a high time frame. All right, so this is coming, and this could just take a few months to play out, and it can happen very quickly once it starts to happen. Okay, and so that's kind of where what I'm looking at from a higher time frame perspective. So for the low time frames, I suspect some drawdown here, maybe next couple weeks, maybe going into the FOMC meeting. That's what, middle of September or something. So we could have a couple weeks of pulling back to do, okay, or at least some consolidations across the board. So we're going to look at tether dominance here. Tether dominance weekly candle is, say hammering, but yeah, I would call it a pin bar. It looks like a pin bar, right? So it bounced right off this range low and instantly got bought up. If we start to see follow through on that, well, what's to come. What's to come is potentially a retest of this range high, which is at 4.52%. And if we do start breaking trend, when we start breaking this trend line, then we could be looking at tests up to 4.6 or even up to 4.84. And man, really bloody scenario would be all the way back up to the trend line to this range high. We don't really want to see that. That would be really deep pullbacks in the market. Okay. And yeah, you can also see the weekly stochastics are starting to kind of cross back up. And so that's something, needing to pay attention to, because that's pretty much implying that there could be a potential weekly trend reversal. All right. Oh, I hope we don't see follow through on this, and I hope it just gets rejected here. But just know that a lot of the time when you have weekly bullish divergence on the stochastic RSI. Okay, that doesn't bode very well for crypto land. You didn't clip or anything just yet, but man, if that does, it would probably come in this week if there's positive price action for Tether, people profit taking and stuff like that. I'm not trying to be like a bear or whatever. I just kind of telling you what I'm seeing on this chart. And I hope it ends up just getting rejected here, and we get something like this happening where it just rolls back over. Okay, that would be something we want to see, because like if we go to like the 2-week time frame, it's still kind of ticking down. The 3-week time frame is also still ticking down, but we're at a pretty big inflection point. That is like the bullish control zone for the momentum. Okay, and then your monthly is also still kind of crossing down. This to me on the high time frame still looks really good for risk assets. Again, we actually want to see this monthly momentum kind of take this bullish control zone out and go into bearish control zone for our euphoria rally, or euphoric time we're going to see in crypto. So none of that really confirmed just yet, but it does look like we are going to see euphoria here soon. Okay, because this monthly is still kind of coming down. It's still got room to go oversold on the monthly time frame. All right, so we could be looking at a couple months out here. Okay, is what I'm trying to say. And what we will eventually want to see is closures below this 3.8, 3.9% region on high time frames, and then follow through. Right, that is the key. Seeing the follow through is the key. All right, so we're going to look at Bitcoin, and we're going to look at the global liquidity chart, because that is very important to kind of pay attention to. All right, and yeah, you can see our global liquidity pulled back a bit. So we could be on the global liquidity chart. We could be right at the top of this region where we see this pullback, and that's where we could be. We made this top, and we're going to get this pullback. And then we're going to start ticking back up again, because then it starts ticking back up again. And this might actually end up making a new high, right? And that's kind of what I'm projecting us to potentially do here. Take us to the moon node. Yeah, I'm working on it, man. I'm working on it. I mean, there's only so much that I can do and I can control. I can just try to give you guys the analysis that I'm seeing here. All right, so for right now, we're actually holding this range low. We could end up going sideways here for a bit. This is acting as our support right now. We are bear flagged right here. It's very clear that this has been flagged to the downside. Okay, and until we come up to take out 123,350 with conviction, we're basically in a range. Okay. When node rocket? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So these are all things that we're just watching right now. Got to kind of, throw in some of those probabilities that, with this coming down, our RSI isn't okay. Yeah, we have weekly bearish divergence. That is definitely present on the chart. Okay. That is pretty clear. We had the weekly bearish divergence back here, and that was back in January of 25, which resulted in this kind of move down, right? So this kind of moved down. To me, yeah. So like we're probably going to get this eventually get this move down to like the 105 region, possibly. We didn't really go overbought though, like we did up here. All right, so that's the only difference. We do have weekly bearish divergence on the chart though. All right, you get bearish divergences a lot in uptrends, guys, and what tends to happen is you get a lot of underperformance. Okay, now, I'm not saying that we're not going to go down, but this drop was 32%. Okay. And this drop, if we did 32% drop, that would take us, that would take us, in my opinion, that would take us back into like a bear market. Because if you look at the weekly, this is what you really need to pay attention to. Okay, the weekly 50-week moving average is right around 93K. There is a gap around 92K, just FYI. Okay. I don't think that we're going to make closures below 92, 93K. All right. Yeah. These drops, as you go higher like this, they tend to be quicker. So it could just be this $100,000 region, ping pong between these fib extensions. All right. And so, yeah, like this 102, 103 region seems about right. That would be about an 18% drawdown. Okay. So, okay, well, your two standard deviation move down would be about 94K, and we would still be in a bull market as long as we make weekly closures above the weekly 50. So I would say worst case scenario is this right here, 94K. Okay. Something along those lines. Yeah. So we haven't clipped just yet, but we're definitely showing a lot of weakness on Bitcoin right now with this this divergence, bearish divergence. You can also see that the weekly MACD is crossing back down. So you're losing that momentum on the weekly time frame right now. That is for certain. Okay, and you've just now printed and confirmed a weekly sell signal. There you go. So that's it. That's for Bitcoin. Let's take a look at Ethereum. I do think we're in midst of rotation right now. Obviously, if Bitcoin's dropping against dollars, and ETH probably going to drop against dollars. Yeah, I mean, we do have kind of similar bearish divergences on ETH, but you can also see that you're not losing your MACD right now. Actually, you have some nice separation on it, right? So that doesn't really spell something as nearly as dramatic as what Bitcoin looks like right now. Bitcoin obviously a lot weaker than ETH, okay? Right? Because that's kind of where we're at in this cycle right now. Is the ETH Bitcoin chart is kind of leading the charge right now against Bitcoin, right? Yeah, Bitcoin dominance is clearly coming down. It's losing strength, right? So yeah, active rotations into altcoins are going to be having to happen. So yeah. So like I keep kind of alluding to here, it just makes sense that we see some sort of drawdown here for the next couple of weeks, maybe into September. I hope I'm wrong. I hope everything just goes up. But this is kind of what the charts are alluding to right now. So are you going to have, some assets that don't do that? Yeah, you are. There's always going to be select assets or coins that outperform the market. So that's it. Let's take a look at gold real quick. Gold kind of flat right now. Gold also looks like it's very extended. Monthly time frame here. Let's see. Weekly actually is oversold already. That's interesting. So maybe gold has another move ahead of it. Maybe just chop around here. Maybe you get some pullback first. Maybe something like this back to the 50-week moving average, and then you kind of jolt higher off something like that on a reset. Yeah, something like that is possible. And the dollar index, take a look at that real quick. Dollar index is continuing to show signs of weakness, which is good, kind of what we want to see for risk assets. We are starting to clip here on the weekly. The monthly, not so much. Monthly, we did get Bollinger Band deviation here, so in the next few months we're going to see the dollar probably tick back up. That's basically it. No confirmed bottom or anything like that for the dollar right now. But I'd be watching, this sort of trend here where you maybe get a push up to like 101, maybe you get rejected and come lower, something like that. Because if you look at, the previous type of cycles here, we've seen sort of these ABCs down. So we had this A, and we're in the B wave right now. We'll probably get the C wave down, and then we'll probably make some sort of range low, and that'll probably be the top of the cycle. Okay. Yeah, we'll look at Kava, sure. Man, this thing not really getting much love here, buddy. You're just sitting down here at the range lows. It looked like a wedge pattern setting up, but it didn't really get any bids. That's the problem with this asset. Yeah, you're just chopping down here, man. Look at these wicks. Okay. I would still say it's definitely in a wedge pattern. It just needs volume to break out of there. Yeah, it looks like maybe you're starting to build some momentum down here on the monthly time frame. And the weekly is in a squeeze. So being heavily defended at this 37-cent region. Okay. I'd be a little bit worried if you started taking out the 30-cent region here and you made new lows. Just throwing it out there. Okay. Well, that's pretty much it. Looks like NASDAQ is now up 0.25%. That's it. For all you Pulse Chain people, Hex people, Hex made a nice move today. It was up 23%. This actually looks like it's trying to break out of its descending broadening formation. And you can see the weekly is starting to cross up here on your average sentiment oscillator. That's looking pretty good. And yeah, you have 2-week and 3-week bullish divergence on your stochastic RSI. That's very strong. And you can see the squeeze as well is a very tight squeeze here. So it's been ranging for quite some time down here for past, I would say the last couple of years. It's been just chopping around down here, our last year or so. So if this does get some bids, this could definitely, trade back up to 1.1 cents. That's kind of a target. And, kind of go from there. If it starts reclaiming that, then we can target higher prices on this thing. But for now, this thing needs to start breaking out of its ranges here, and then we can kind of discuss further action on this asset. And Pulse Chain itself also putting in a weekly bullish engulfing candle. Needs to basically make closures above this 5721 region to get back up to this 89 region. And just plotting the whole range here is about a 450% move to the top of the range for Pulse Chain. But you can see that maybe it's already a bit extended here on the weekly with your relative volatility index kind of peaking out there. All right, so potential for pullback here is possible. Okay. And yeah, your weekly momentum is already overbought. Your 2-week time frame is getting into the overbought territory. Your 3-week time frame looks like it's got a lot of room to run. So this is suggesting the next couple weeks. I keep kind of reiterating the same things here. The next few weeks here, I think we're going to see some pullbacks, some resets. Okay. And remember, always zooming out to the high time frames will give you probably the biggest edge on any asset. And remember, the monthly time frames take time to play out. These take anywhere from 4 to 6 months to play out. So yeah, you got the cross up here. You're coming into bullish control zone, and that could take some time. So let's see how this pans out. Maybe we ended up just really just consolidating and not getting a major drawdown, but we'll see. I mean, this is you can see that it's rhyming and or repeating here on Bitcoin with this bearish divergence. Yeah, we'll look at ADA, sure. Nice structure, kind of holding above this 72-cent region. Your weekly RSI is sitting around 63, so very bullish. You had the weekly bullish divergence here playing out. You got this big push up. And let's look at the monthly real quick. Monthly, MACD also looking nice, crossing back up. Yeah, I would say Cardano looks pretty strong as a whole here. And swing targets for Cardano here, top of the range, the gold mean ratios are on this $1.20 region. You start taking that out, you'd be looking at 180s up to the 2 to 240 region. You could basically look at it step by step. So I would say once you start to get in this $2 to $3 region, $6 is pretty much on deck. All right, and you can see that it's just basically stepping up off this chart. So yeah, you could basically be looking at a move back up to the top of the range, and you may not break the top of the range right away if the whole market is not kind of giving upward momentum for the altcoins. But I think that's kind of where we're at in this market cycle. We're actually in the midst of rotation right now into L1, major L1s. Yeah, we can look at PDI and wrap Bitcoin, sure. All right. All right. So wrap Bitcoin at $865. Bit of rejection off the weekly super trend here. You can see you tagged about $1,200 and pulled back below the midline here of this channel that it's been actively trading in. Yeah, you're showing a little bit of bear div here on the weekly. You can see that your momentum on the weekly is ticked down. So that to me means like downside and or sideways action here in the next couple weeks. And yeah, you're not clipping just yet, but you're looking like you're rounding. You can see it rounding here. And when it starts to do that, eventually what happens is you round down and you get the clip, and then you come down. You don't know how far your wave trend is going to come down, but eventually what happens is you make some sort of low, and then you get to the overbought region. Okay. Yeah, you zoom out on like your 2-week and your 3-week and your monthly. They all look really good on high time frames. While your 2-week is, yeah, you could see your 2-week got into the bullish control zone here. It looks like it's sort of getting, it's sort of out of steam, right? Because your weekly is pulling back. So what's probably going to happen here is at the end of this week, if we get a drawdown, then this 2-week might start to roll over. Okay. And then the 3-week, okay, that really high time frame looks very good, right? You're still down here in the oversold region. So probably a quick drawdown to like, the $600, $600 region, something like that is possible. All right, so your next real major support here on wrap Bitcoin is the 750 region. If you really start to lose the 750 region, you'd be looking at 585, and that would be like your retest of this breakout here, which you broke and back tested and made 2 attempted failed rallies so far. So you kind of have a swing fail up here on this second attempt. All right, so something like that is very possible to see. And we'll look at PDI also. So PDI is, I kind of drew what I think it might do. So it's kind of similar, right? I mean, Wrap Bitcoin, I think, is a little bit more structurally different than PDI. But you can see, man, you got it looks like 3 drives on the 2-day here of bearish divergence. All right, so this is all kind of telling you some things. Whether or not you see follow through on it is a completely different story. But you can see this stuff like this right now. It looks like a potential rising wedge. I say potential because it may not play out. When you're in an uptrend, bearish divergences or bearish chart patterns don't necessarily always play out to the fullest extent. What could end up happening, though, is if Wrap Bitcoin's pulling back and Atropa's pulling back and all the Atropa assets are pulling back while maybe the cores are getting bids, what happens is people sell these assets into the cores and you get some sort of pullback like this. You know, you could go back to the 3.7s or 3.8s, and that wouldn't be something unheard of because this last drawdown was about a 48% drop. All right, so we could be looking at, well, very similar type of drawdown. 48% drop would put you, right at 0.004. Okay, so that's something that is potentially possible for PDI, especially with this bearish divergence here that you're kind of showing on your 2-day chart. And your 3-day looks like it's kind of stalling a bit too. I mean, this can pivot and run again. It's not in very overbought territory. But the thing is you look at your momentum, okay, yeah, you could argue that, okay, you have some divergence here on the 3-day. Sure. You haven't broke this structure yet. Sure. I'm not saying that this doesn't just continue higher because it can. But look where you're at on the RSI. It's not like your RSI is down here, okay? If the RSI was down here, I would be a little bit more leaning towards the probability being a lot more to the upside than right here. So you tag this resistance, you're probably going to come back down to tag this support. It's very simple. If you can't break a resistance, you go back down to test the support. So kind of in this limbo spot right here where you didn't have enough momentum to push through it. And so something like this, where you come back down and then eventually break it and get to this all-time high like that, looks more probable. Okay. That's it. That's the PDI analysis right now. Okay, yeah, I'm not factoring in anything happening behind the scenes. I'm just looking at this chart right here, and I think that that's really the best way to look at it because, guessing, oh, they're going to peg it or this or that, like nobody really knows any of that stuff, man. So we're all here for that, though. If that happens, that's wonderful. We're going to just get a God candle out of nowhere. That'd be great. I can't rely on that. That's all I'm trying to say. Cool. And that about wraps it up. You guys have anything else you guys want to look at? You want to look at H-bar? CLPT, Sol. Okay. So H-bar also looking like swing failing up here. Yeah, maybe this 21-cent region looks about right. This breakout region right here, kind of the middle of the Fibonacci level. Before maybe you get some sort of, bounce. If we're going to see downside here, this is kind of like what I'd be looking at. This region here, this 21-cent region. Yeah, they all look like they're going to pull back, man. It just is what it is. Like I unfortunately, when it looks like that, I can't be like, oh no, we're just going to rip. And I hope we do. But like you get some medium term to higher time frame, looking the way it looks extended. So pulling back is a normal thing to have happen in a bull market. Yeah, and then after you get that reset, you could get a huge buyback and you get that break. Okay, and that's what I'd be looking at here on H bar, is, you know, maybe longs down here at the bottom of the range, or bottom of the range here. Okay, and maybe back to the actual fib level. Now, I'm giving a mid-range target here because I don't know how steep this is going to be. Okay, and because nobody really knows. And the weekly here, yeah, the weekly here just kind of crossing down on H bar. So you got weekly bearish divergence here on your momentum. It's telling you that we're going to see some downside on the weekly time frame. All right, so this could last a couple weeks. This is also a swing. It's like a swing fail, right? So it's a lower high on the macro side of it. But that could end up setting up to do something great later on. Like that could end up, even if it ends up coming back to 18 cents, you end up making higher lows than this low, and then you can pivot and really go on your break, right? So that's something I'd be paying attention to. So, you know, the 21 to 18 cent region here looks like it's potentially on deck if we really start to see sell pressure come in to crypto right here, right now. All right, and then Solana, we can take a look at Solana. Sure, a lot of it's going to be very similar. So Solana, I would say, is a bit stronger than H bar, right? Yeah, your weekly RSI nowhere near overbought territories, but you can see that your weekly momentum here is starting to lose steam. Right, so when you start to lose steam like that, you usually get pullbacks or drawdowns or some sideways action. Yeah, I mean, not the worst candle close on the weekly, but no breakthrough candle. Your super trend is still short on the weekly, so you haven't really flipped the trend on the weekly time frame. All right, you really want to see, you know, SOL close back above 205. Even up to 220, 224 to flip that super trend. But yeah, there's no reason, like if you're in the spot position on it, there's no reason to do anything with your position down here right now. Okay. You're not overbought. Yeah, you're in the bullish control zone. You could get a pullback here. You could do something like this where you come back down to maybe neutral or 45, 47. And then bids come in, and then you go. And then, like, looking at the monthly time frame, you could see it just perfectly reset on the monthly time frame. So looks like I keep saying, a couple weeks of sideways or drawdown here, shake the market up a bit, make people sell their bags or whatever they're trying to do before this major run up, because that's what it looks like it's setting up to do. It looks like it's all setting up to do a major run up. Okay. And yeah, I think the longer term swing here is to about that $600 region here on Solana, which is about a 3.5x from here. It could go higher, but I'm just giving you guys you know, Fibonacci levels to look at on Solana here, right? That's it. I mean, everything is just going to kind of be dictated where the liquidity is going, and I think the liquidity is coming out right now. They are setting this up for a drawdown to reaccumulate, to send it higher later. Okay. That's it. Virtuals actually was looking pretty strong here going into the close today. Yeah, a nice double bottom being put in. You got to break this neckline at 147 to really confirm that, but you can see that's a nice bullish engulfing candle there being put in by virtuals. Okay, this is a big pattern. If this plays out, this is a big pattern, a very big pennant. Okay, very, very big pennant. You build pressure, and then you break out. Okay, pay attention to this one. All right, and then you got all these like little baby virtual coins too that look pretty solid. If virtuals actually goes, Like you got this Convo coin. We'll look at Aerodrome. Aerodrome's solid, right? It's a base deck, the base decks. Here's Convo. Okay. Now to me, this looks really good. Look at the daily. Bouncing, making bullish divergence. You made a lower low on price. Right? It looks like it wants to maybe reverse here. It's at the bottom of its major flag or major pennant. Okay. This isn't perfect, but you guys get the idea of what it's trying to do here. Maybe I should redraw this, but yeah, it's something to pay attention to. This might even actually be a good entry spot, or maybe if it gets back down to the range low, it could be very good. Okay. But yeah, to me, as soon as you start breaking this trend line, I think this thing is go time. All right. So you got some time. You could either wait for it to break this trend line and back test it, or you can start building a position here because your daily is showing you some momentum shifting things on the daily. And the 3-day here also, you can very slightly see it. You got some bullish divergence here on the RSI. Okay. So that to me is very attractive. That could do some nice things once that whole trend reverses, and your 3-day momentum here is starting to try to tick up. It hasn't done it just yet, but it's alluding to giving you that signal. All right. So pay attention to this one. I think this one might do well. It's a low cap. It's got some decent liquidity to its cap too, 2.1 million in liquidity. Look at Aerodrome, sure. Let's see. Aerodrome $140. Oh yeah, beautiful range that it's in right here. Top of the range, 2.25. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's starting to become overbought. You're seeing that, right? So, I mean, it can blow out to higher. Okay, it can blow out to it went to 98 on the RSI. So it's not something that isn't possible for Aerodrome to do. But if the rest of the market is pulling back here, then you're probably going to see it pull back. Okay. Which would suck because that would be definitely a swing failure if it did that right here. But to me, it still looks good. The trade might even just be up to 220. And then you could do something like this where you get up here and you make one more pullback, and maybe you make this big inverse head and shoulder structure for your price discovery move. Okay. That's what you could be looking at on Aerodrome. Okay. Because I'm sure if you looked at this on like a monthly chart, yeah, it's got room to run on the monthly. Okay. It's just at 63 on the RSI. So yeah, could be setting up to do something like that. You might want to use these candle bodies here on the monthly to kind of get a glimpse of where it's at. And it's actually right near those candle bodies. So getting a reversal here short term wouldn't really surprise me at all. Okay. Watch these wicks, man. Just watch these wicks going into the end of the month here. You got these little babies like hack and stuff. This thing just did some crazy move today, 40-something%. But look what it's doing. This is interesting, right? It's breaking the trend line. Not only is it breaking the trend line, it's got 3-day bullish divergence. Your momentum is ticked up here. Your MACD is in bearish control zone with it grinding up. I mean, this is a baby cap, very high risk stuff here. But look what it's doing. So you made this low, you made this rally, huge drawdown, higher low. I mean, anyone else see it? What does it look like? It looks like a double bottom or a dragon pattern, right? So dragons, you usually get the 886. The 886 would take you to the 0.08 region, which from here is about a 30x. Okay. Huge trade. Okay. Cool. There's plenty of these other, virtual coins that look good. I gave you one before, Convo. This BIOS coin was good. It broke out of its falling wedge pattern. Probably going to go sideways or draw down here a bit after this breakout. But yeah, after you get falling wedge breaks, you usually get an inverse head and shoulders pattern for your next leg. And that's what it looks like it's doing right now. It looks like it's building its right shoulder right now. Nice candle today, 25%. Or yeah, you're below this fib level. I'd watch for closures back above the fib level to see when you're going to get this next push. But something like that is definitely in the cards. The falling wedges go to the top of the wedge. You guys know that. From here, it's what, like a 10x maybe. You know, like an 800% move. So yeah, these are all things to watch out for. This coin is up 90% today. It's called Whale Intel. It's obviously very overbought here on the daily, but man, yeah, you can see that beautiful rounding structure on the chart. Nice base put in here. You had your capitulation low. This is your capitulation. Oh, it's going to zero. Sideways candle, back in the range. Take it higher. Okay, that's kind of what you will see a lot on these low caps too. These virtual coins look very good. Got to say, they all look very good. All right, that's basically it. Let me know if you guys have any other assets you guys want to look at before I jump off here. Oh, CLPT. Sorry, Flap. You want to look at that. NASDAQ. Okay. Yeah, so what? You had a... What is it that you like about this stock, Flap? Sure, Toe. So your monthly coming into the bullish control zone, 3-week time frame. Okay, 3-week is oversold, so you're probably going to bounce here. You're starting to show the weekly bullish divergence on your stochastics. Okay, so that could be implying that you get a move back up on the higher time frames here. You could be looking at a wedge pattern potentially. I see what you're seeing. I see it. I see the inverse head and shoulders pattern that maybe you also see. Okay. You got your neckline right here. You got this left shoulder, this head. And you're just making maybe the right shoulder here. Okay. And if you make that right shoulder, your move initially is back up into the trend line because you're in a wedge pattern. Maybe you get one more drawdown and then you get the break to get you going. Okay. So something like that's possible. You really want to get that monthly cross back up on your momentum to really confidently take that momentum trade. Okay. So be on the lookout for that. By the end of the month here, if you get that closure or that cross back up, probably good. Probably good. What do you guys think about GameStop down here? My only concern with GameStop here is, I mean, the weekly is oversold. That's just kind of what I wanted to take this trade. You know, your 2-week here still coming down. Your 3-week here still coming down. Your monthly probably still coming down. Yeah, so the monthly doesn't really look very good on a GameStop right now. But your weekly and your 3-day chart were looking pretty good to go. This 3-day momentum here is showing me bullish divergence, okay? And you're at the bottom of a range or pretty close to the bottom of the range. So I think you could get a pop to like $30 on this thing. Yeah, patience, exactly. You got the 2-day bullish divergence and the 3-day crossing up. I think that this is going to materialize into something positive, at least to go gap fill the $27 region. This region up here up to $28 potentially. That's what it looks like. So yeah, bottom of the range. You know, if it doesn't pan out, it ends up getting rejected or something, you just cut the trade and well, it'll probably lose its 1 year support. I mean, that's kind of why I like this trade, because it looked very reliable to be an area where we could see at least a bounce back up to the top of the range. We'll see about it. And this was this wedge pattern that played out, and now you've just been going sideways. So typically, when you break a wedge pattern, like we've spoke about this many times, what ends up happening later on is you get the move. Well, I guess you did. You did kind of get to the top here. Okay. Well, I would say confidently get to the top here. All right. Well, that's what I'm looking for. Not in the next month or two, or this could take some time until this all resets on the high time frames here. So yeah, we'll see how this pans out. If the equities markets start to really, go up, then I think there's no reason why GameStop doesn't go up with it. So that's it. All right, folks, been live for about an hour here. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next week. Y'all have a wonderful week.